Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Shall we start gradually? My name is Yerle Karajan. I'm chairman of Economic Research Institute here in the city of Nur-Sultan. For me, it was a big honor and a challenge as well to have managed the contentious side of Astana Economic Forum, whereas my colleagues from Expo and some other companies, we worked on that, but it was strong coordination. So thank you very much, colleagues, for coming down for this concluding session, which is an open discussion without any prepared agenda. So what I would like to do is to have an open discussion for your thoughts, any conclusions, etc. So basically, I'll do the moderation, and we'll be seeking for your thoughts that you may have earned during the discussions at the sessions that we ran. So before that, a brief introduction, if I may. The 12th forum is being held here. So it's the second day. We're still running with a number of parallel sessions with discussions going on number of issues with open discussions, etc. All in all, the forum was held within 2 days and is being still. And we had around 56 sessions with various speakers involved with various topics. And just to remind you, the topic of today's Astana Economic Forum was inspiring growth, people, cities, economies. That is a very strong agenda for us when we thought of it. Then when we're thinking of the directions that to cover, if you remember, there were 5 groups of sessions. One of them was macroeconomic agenda. It was more like a global issues discussion, the tendencies and risks and topics that countries face. Second issue was the story of regional macroeconomic agenda. When we talk about protectionism, when we talk about regional associations and organizations which are happening, including the 25th anniversary of Eurasian integration, the idea which came up to the first president of Kazakhstan, Mr. Nursultan Nazarbayev. The third and strong agenda was technological. Definitely technology is changing our lives. We're using means which help us improve efficiency of communication, including efficiency in many directions of our life, like logistics, infrastructure, robotics, artificial intelligence, big data analysis, which help us to many extent to ease our lives and to seek quicker resolutions and maybe seek the right answers. So, which is basically a very strong topic for any academia. We're very curious, we're looking for answers, we're looking for conclusions, and that's very important. But technology on its own is not, it cannot be isolated. So the other topic was the development of cities. So urbanization is a strong tendency, and we're looking, and we heard that some of the speakers at the plenary session, they mentioned that around almost 70% of global population will soon be living in cities, and cities are becoming the centers of innovation. So that was also on agenda. And the last but not the least was the session about the human capital. So at the heart of all the discussions are people. So what does it mean to people? What does it mean to normal, common citizens of the globe? And how we manage the whole agenda for ourselves? How do we live in the changing environment? Quite disturbing sometimes, but also it's about good opportunities. So another good thing that we did at the Institute, and you must have heard of us already several times, we produced some kind of a home task, a report which we called Kazakhstan and the Global World, Challenges and Opportunities, which is basically a teamwork with the strong analytical work done by the Economic Research Institute staff, and with good contributions from our partners, including PwC, Bretton Woods Committee, Boston Consulting Group, European Bank for Construction and Development, and the Economic Initiatives Fund of Kazakhstan. We also had contributions from around 15 guests who came down to Kazakhstan with your own knowledge, with your own expertise, and we're seeking for answers and comments on particular topics of your expertise. So this report, of course, requires some time to maybe study, but we didn't go too much in detail on the topics that we raised. But for us, it's important more to show it more like an overview of the risks that there are on global scope, and also what are the opportunities that we see for the country. So what I would like to do is just again to invite you to yet again read it and see if you agree or don't agree, and maybe have comments or any suggestions in terms of what would be the issues for a country like Kazakhstan in terms of further development, because everyone is here as academics. We are looking at positive outcomes. We're looking for ways to overcome disturbances. And sometimes long-term issues are much more important, as we understand, than the short-term. So that's my broader introduction for the discussion today. I suggested that this session was done by invitation because it's the end of the day. We know that some of the speakers have already left for their own agenda issues, but I would like to thank you for coming, and thank you for being ready to share your views. So this is an open discussions calling. Today we invited several people. Maurice Obstfeld have some bios here. I'll read some out loud, but you know some of them already. Mr. Obstfeld is from University of California, Berkeley, educated at Cambridge University and MIT. You are the Bernard Harms Prize winner in 2004. Contributed to 2 fundamental textbooks in global economy, wrote 100 and more, I guess, academic papers devoted to foreign exchange rates, financial turmoil, capital markets, and monetary policy as well. You proposed the second generation of currency crisis model, right? Arturo Briz, thank you, Arturo. We have here the Professor of Finance at IMD, Director of IMD World Competitiveness Center, Professor of Corporate Finance and Investment Banking at Yale University, President of Board of Trustees of IMD Pension Foundation, headed Department of Higher Strategic Management of the International Institute of Management Development, IMD, Associate Professor of Corporate Finance at Yale School of Management, and many other big posts. Thank you for coming. You're a very strong advisor to us, and we'll look forward to further working with you. Mr. Dr. Hyun-Oh Seok, the Chair Professor of Korea National Diplomatic Academy. He served as the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Strategy and Finance under the President Park Geun-hye administration and the President of Korea Development Institute. So it's the second time of your visit to Kazakhstan here, right, and to this forum. We're expecting Geoffrey Sachs to come at a later stage, so we'll also seek for his advice. I'll introduce him later on. Oh, I have one more person. And this person I don't want to forget at all. This is Mr. Eric Reinert. We've had a very interesting discussion today with the debate with Mr. Kenneth Rogoff. Thank you for contributions. Indeed, very strong and good comments. I think we can elaborate on some of your issues today. You are from Norway. You now teach at Tallinn University and have done some strong research on developing economies and recommendations for the improvement of their situation. We have Mr. Marko Zan. Marko Zan is our strong partner. He's been with the Astana Economic Forum for a number of years. You manage the whole set of sessions for global agenda. And thank you for that, inviting some speakers. Very strong discussions, and thank you for the contributions. And so today it will be interesting to see particularly your views on global macroeconomic agenda. Mr. Dr. Chung from Georgetown University as Education Professor Emeritus at Incheon National University, Chief Advisor to the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on climate change issues, as well as Ambassador of Climate Change for climate change in the Republic of Korea. Dr. Chung is the Nobel Prize laureate for peace of 2007, and thank you for coming. So it will be interesting to hear your views. We also have some other colleagues here. Margolin Andrei Markovich, the President Director of the Institute of Finance and Sustainable Development from Moscow, Doctor of Economic Sciences. Thank you for coming in as well. My colleagues, Dinara Akınbekova, she is the head of the Center for Entrepreneurship at ERI, our institute. Shahramon Nusharmanovna, she is Deputy Chair at ERI, looking at macroeconomic policies and some others. Baurjan Mokhan, he is also Deputy Chair at ERI, looking at mostly regional development issues and some other economic expertise. Aybol, thank you for joining me. Aybol is the head of the International Economics Center at ERI. Saltanat Ahmedjanova, she is head of the economic expertise also at ERI, and our prominent member of the institute, Sara Alpazbayeva, she's also Doctor of Economics, chairing the Macroeconomic Center. So, colleagues, I talk too much. I have two questions on the agenda. Basically, if you could first maybe comment and see what are your recommendations or your comments out of the sessions that we had and that you attended during these 1.5 days. If you have any strong comments in terms of what needs to be done in the country, and if you have any particular points to raise that you may now not have had a chance to do so during this time. You also had opportunity, some of you, to meet some of our senior officials from Kazakhstan. If you could share some of your views and maybe, I don't know, propose any other topics that you would like to point out, then we will draw down the conclusions during today's session. And before we go to the second topic, I will ask it again later on, but basically if you could help us shape the agenda of the Astana Economic Forum 2020. Think of subject items, we will propose that, we'll think with the government and propose something for the next year. So there are two topics, issues on the agenda. So again, I would welcome anyone to comment if you have anything to say about the sessions that you attended, any recommendations or comments that we need to put down and think over here at ERI and together with our colleagues and co-partners. Anyone would like to volunteer? Otherwise, Ms. Aufsild.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to this session and for putting together this wonderful set of discussions during the last couple of days. It's been really fantastic that you have convened such a global collection of thought leaders here, and I found it personally very, very fruitful. I was in a number of sessions and also met with the Prime Minister, Kazakhstan is unique in the region in terms of having the highest per capita income, and actually, according to the IMF, being only a few years away from convergence at current growth rates to the average per capita income in Central and Eastern Europe. So in that sense, it is a real leader. The government has a very ambitious program to actually enter the top 30 countries in the world in terms of per capita income in 30 years, and has made a number of important reforms to that end. But one point I'm struck by is that international trade is absolutely critical to the prospects for convergence to this high-income group, as well as to the past achievements of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a country that has a very commodity-oriented export mix, petroleum products, ores, uranium, and in the discussions with the Prime Minister, but I think it's also has been recommended by the IMF, the importance of diversifying the export mix. This is important not only to improve resilience to shocks because commodity prices are so volatile, but also I would say to promote the development of human capital in Kazakhstan by providing a range of jobs and a range of activities that can power growth going forward. I think another very important reason is that with climate change accelerating and with the likelihood that there is a faster move away from fossil fuels, countries that depend on fossil fuels for their primary export earnings are taking a big risk. So this diversification is critical. The international trade environment, however, is very troubled, and that poses a problem, a challenge to any country that seeks to grow through international trade. I was struck in a session I was in on the soft landing for the global economy this morning, how much there is a focus on the U.S.-China tension. This is very real for Kazakhstan because China is its biggest trade partner. And to some degree, in the trade area, you could argue there's been something of a retreat from globalization. So Kazakhstan has a huge stake in the resolution of trade tensions in a peaceful way and in supporting the multilateral system which was built up over the post-war period, including the IMF, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and Madame Lagarde's speech at the plenary, I think, very effectively made some of those points. I think another really big risk in general for Kazakhstan in particular is geopolitics and the possibility of shocks that disrupt the global economy, but also the local security situation. Obviously, the tensions between Iran and the US are a major factor. Changes in Afghanistan as the US disengages could also be very important. So, Kazakhstan has a very important agenda in front of it, diversifying exports, including by improving domestic finance, reducing the role of the private sector, tackling governance improvement and corruption. But also that is not going to be enough. There is also the international environment. And Kazakhstan itself has to rely on a spirit of global and multilateral cooperation, returning to the global system. Unfortunately, that's not really under the control of the local authorities. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osfeld. I know that Mr. Reinert, you're running out of time for an interview, right? Maybe you could chip in at this point of time.
Okay. Well, thank you also for the kind invitation. I would definitely agree with the last speaker, but coming from a small and fairly late industrializing country, talking about windows of opportunity, the breakdown of the belief that free trade will solve all problems. It's broken down before. It broke down in 1848. It broke down in the 1930s, and I found that in Europe, the breakdown of the idea of free trade in 1848 made it possible for a lot of countries, like the Scandinavian countries, actually to industrialize. So it might be good news, but because I think you are going to need some fairly heavy-handed policies, and there's a big problem of coordination here. And at Harvard Business School, we used to say that single issue management, this is Michael Porter, single issue management is very dangerous, right? And you have some very serious coordination problems, and of course you are aware of it. I mean, educating people has to be matched with creating jobs for the people you educate. And I think here, for instance, South Korea was excellent, you know, the timing of education with the timing of creating jobs. So, but if you don't build your industrial sector, your adding value to your raw materials fast enough, you know, educating people is exporting. You may create a brain drain, right? So that's one of the coordination problems you have. And also, I think you've done a very good job of not having a one city country like you know, Argentina or Mongolia. You managed to create 3 urban centers, which decentralizes, and I think that is a very good idea. But I study very old economic theory also, and in the 1600s, when people were looking at what creates big cities or what creates rich cities, they had a very different. They looked very differently at administrative cities, like Madrid, that were not very rich except for the few bureaucrats, and Milan, which was a productive city, right? So I think you have to make that decision. If you want a city, you don't want only administration, but you also have to link industry. I mean, over time, successful cities have been built with manufacturing industry. And I'm not saying it has to be the most sophisticated, but I think you should look at your import bill and see what is it that we can produce locally, which requires a minimum of intervention. You know, don't export wheat for 400 euros a ton and buy spaghetti back at 4,000 euro a ton. You know, that's the example I used earlier. So it's adding value to your raw materials is I think, crucial. And academics, we tend to be specialized, so I think it's very important that you get views from many academics as you do, and also that you involve companies like Boston Consulting Group, who are used to seeing things in a more holistic way. So I think you have a good mix of advisors. And perhaps in terms of coordination, perhaps Singapore is a good example. And Singapore and their sovereign wealth fund could be a very good something to try to emulate. You know, they have Semitech, where they accumulate their oil wealth, and 25 to 30% is invested locally, and because if you invest too much locally, you heat up the economy, and the rest is invested abroad. So I think that's emulating Singapore in that, from that viewpoint, would be a good idea. And finally, as an international trade theorist, what UNCTAD used to call symmetrical trade is always good. You know, trade between nations at roughly the same stage of development. If you trade with somebody who's much more advanced, they would kill your advanced industries. But if you have symmetrical trade, you can grow together. And I think from that point of view, the idea of a common free trade area with Russia and with Belarus and with Armenia is a good idea. So you know, it's in a sense like boxing or wrestling. You don't put a heavyweight to trade with a featherweight, because you know the heavyweight is going to win anyway. So try to trade with people who are in your same weight category, to use that metaphor from wrestling and boxing.
Your metaphor is a bit conflictual, right? It's more like negative issues about trade. I think on the other hand, people would like have trade more as a positive, as a friendly relationship, like a collaboration. But in a sense, I think it's understandable what you say. That is, when you say asymmetrical trade, like for Kazakhstan, that would mean that we better concentrate on Eurasian integration issues, the opportunities that they are. What about the China-Kazakhstan relations? What would you think about that, knowing that you know the region rather well, right?
Well, I wouldn't say I know China very well, but I think China has followed, in a way, the book written by the US. You know, you protect in the beginning, and then when you're strong enough, you open up. So I think the key issue of timing, of free trade is timing. And I think China is successful because it only opened up slowly and didn't open up too far. So I would be afraid of you joining the WTO too fast, just like Russia did. So you have to build some strength, and trade can be, if it's symmetrical, it's a win-win game, but it can also be a game of losers, as we saw with the whole Soviet Union, how it collapsed with the free trade shock. I'm not saying that was the only reason, but that was an important reason, the free trade shock, and that wasn't so long ago that I think we have to learn from that, and how comparing how China got out of the planned economy with how Russia got out of the planned economy. There's a lot of lessons from that, and China clearly made the right decisions, and partly because it wasn't so pyramidal. I think China power was distributed much more. But Russia, that was a narrow pyramid, and when that disappeared, you got into chaos. But there's something definitely to learn from China, especially I think in the timing of free trade. I mean, the two countries that have brought most people out of poverty, China and India, it wasn't because of free trade, it was because they delayed free trade sufficiently. That would be my take on it. Maybe they get protected too long. That's also possible, but that's better than protecting too little, or too briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. I guess it also relates to the Korean example, right? Mr. Oseok, you want to maybe?
Thank you. Actually, the last 2 days I really enjoyed it. Some plenary sessions and then some kind of a panel discussion. So I really learned many things about Kazakhstan and the global economy. As we all understand, some kind of the balance of risk on the global economy seems like on the downside. I mean, Professor Obsfeld already mentioned, and then Eric already mentioned about the trade. So I want to make 2 points about that. Some kind of not advice, but some kind of analysis about the Kazakhstan economy and then general the developing countries. One is trade side, another one is technology. I think that the textbook says that trade, I think, has been providing some enormous, the benefit to developing countries in many ways. Something like a competitive effect. And then you can have also some kind of a market size effects. And also some kind of input. That variety effect. You can secure that some kind of more and better intermediary at a lower price. But in addition to this kind of economic effects, the trade might provide some kind of knowledge spillover, and also some kind of improvements of institution and then culture too. So in that sense, I think trade is, should be quite much more important role in the development of even, I think, as far as I know, even in the Kazakhstan case. But I want to emphasize some kind of trade with some kind of rich countries with something like a medium and then high-tech manufacturings might play the role to contribute some kind of effect, as I mentioned. So in addition to developing countries, why don't you consider some kind of trade with some high-income countries, including USA or some European countries, even in Korea too. So I think, we all understand that Kazakhstan is a very huge national resources abundant country, but national resources is finite, but human creativity is some timeless. So in that sense, both trade and technology might help some further upgrading the status of Kazakhstan. Another issue is the technology. I think that something like, especially the digital revolution, I think by the very nature, is something like disruptive. So, in other words, some kind of many benefits comes not only from adopting the technology, but also adapting to the technology. So the importance of this kind of disruptive technology is that I think it must first be widely adopted before society adapts to that. So that means there are a couple of issues. I think we might need some kind of smart policies to create a maximum benefit, but also we might prepare some policies to minimize this kind of disruptive, effective. So those two issues, what I'm trying to make comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osuk. Just a question to you. How important was China in the development of Korea as a market?
That's, from Korea's point of view, China still is, I think, that largest trading partner. Among Korean exports, around, I think that more than 30% going to China. So in other words, China is definitely a very important partner. But from Korea's experience, some kind of the goods trade with China has been evolving. So in the early period, some kind of Korea's final finished goods goes to China. But in the later years, most of the goods from Korea to China are intermediate goods. So now it's some kind of capital goods or some more, we call that sophisticated goods, goes to China. But one of the more important things is that China is not just a market, but also it's a very important place for Korean investment, direct investment there. It's some kind of we call that something like value chains. It's quite an important role in the case of China. So, but I think not only China, not only Korea, but also in the world economy might be affected by Chinese behavior. In other words, world global economy might be affected how healthy the Chinese economy is going on, or how much some kind of we call that some trade conflict between the China and then some other countries like US might affect the Chinese economy or Chinese trade side. So in that sense, from Korean point of view, Korea's economic point of view, we try to diversify the markets from the Chinese or some more diversified markets, not only China, but also some Asian countries, also or European countries. That's why Korea made a free trade agreement with the major, I think, economies, including United States, European Union, China, and also some Asian countries too. So in some sense, diversification might help to moderate some vulnerability of the economies in the global sense, or some kind of a big economies, some issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osuk. I think, Mark, Mr. Uzan, you attended and managed a number of sessions on the global agenda, and I think the recent discussions you had was mostly about the effects of the U.S.-Chinese controversy and some other issues in terms of global. Can you comment on that? Because, well, we understand that some of those bigger tensions, they affect developing economies like ours here in Kazakhstan, and basically what would be your recommendation for the country like ours?
Well, first, thank you again for the invitation to participate to the Astana Economic Forum and to be able to contribute to the different global macro sessions. Maybe I will share Professor Osfeld's remark. Indeed, I think I was also surprised that the aspect of trade wars and the China-US relation was a very, very important disruptions for the global economy. We always talk about technological disruptions, but it seems to me that we have new uncertainties. I think these trade disruptions, the uncertainties between US and China, and also I think that was very prominent during our conversation that the multilateral framework that has been with us for the last 75 years is really under stress. And I think it's important for emerging markets that suddenly maybe they realize that for them it's a very an important anchor for the international financial system. And if we have a crisis, if the international financial system will be able to rely on the same type of policy response that we have during the 2008 financial crisis, as maybe foreign policy objective will be much more important than to try to manage the crisis. So I think that may be important, you know, in terms of takeaway, what can we do here to make sure that this multilateral framework that has been important and that needs to be reformed, I mean, for many years there's been a lot of call for reform, will be with us in case we have a major financial distress again in the international system. I think the other takeaway, and we are in Kazakhstan, I think a lot of speakers mentioned, yeah, geographic matters, you know, geography matters. You know, Kazakhstan is one of the largest landlocked countries in the world. So I think the agenda of connectivity is very important. So the issue of how you improve connectivity, port, railways, I think it should be on the agenda for the country. I think we have a lot of discussions about China Belt and Road Initiative, what were the concerns for many countries, and the criticism that came out from the current initiative, the issue of debt sustainability, the lack of transparency, lack of procurement. But I think Kazakhstan has, as I said, geography matters. You know, your closest partner is China, and I think you have to be very careful to make sure that whatever lending is occurring, that is sustainable, and that I think can be aligned with the best practice at the international level. I think the thing that maybe was mentioned by the managing director, but I was not able to see the report, is all the agenda on financial inclusion. I think that's, very important for Kazakhstan. And I think maybe next year, I think it will be very important maybe to try to have some session about the state of the banking sector in your country. I mean, there are a lot of, challenges. I think it would be good to have discussion with the banking sector here. They are not prominent, they are not attending, but I think just to understand what can be done to improve the state of the financial system here, building a financial inclusion agenda.
Just to chip in, because actually IMF did this round table. This is the report they produced. I think it should be online somewhere, I'm sure. But it is very interesting that International Monetary Fund speaks about promoting inclusive growth in the Caucasus and Central Asia. In a sense, but I suggest
very good. Yeah, because I think it was prominent during the conversation. So I think you have a good agenda in terms of how you can align your strategy with the Belt and Road Initiative by taking into account the risk mitigation. That's, I think, one important. Clearly, we are going to live for a long-term period. I think that's my takeaway from this trade war and the uncertainties about the way the multilateral framework will operate in the next few years. What I learned also that Kazakhstan will share next year the WTO ministerial meeting. So maybe I would encourage you to start to think about what can you do. Maybe this is an opportunity for your country, maybe to play a leadership role. You will not resolve for sure the major conflict underway, but at least, from an emerging market perspective, trade matters. So as an emerging market, I think it will be important that this voice be heard. And the, as I mentioned, connectivity agenda, very critical. It's always interesting, you know, when you go to this type of meeting, forum, or IMF, World Bank meeting, we always been at the end, you know, you try to put something on the agenda, but it's always hijacked by something else, and the news was all about China, US trade wars, and I think that was for me, yes, I'm just a little worried that this thing is going to be, unfortunately, with us for many years to come, and because it has spillover effect, because it's not just about trade, it's about technology, and it's about maybe rivalry among two major countries. And as I mentioned yesterday, instead of thinking about China integrating into the global economy as a responsible stakeholder, I think the US has shifted its agenda to see China as a competitor. I hope that we can maybe reset and go back to a more responsible stakeholders, because it will be good for emerging markets, but also for the global economy. I stop here. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chung.
I would like to offer my macro observation about the issues we discussed here. What I'm observing during the economic forum is there's some kind of a strong push and back or tug war between the conventional economics, the conventional economic architecture, banking system, financing issues, trading issues. These are, for me, is a conventional, traditional economics issues. But we are also focusing on another issue about sustainability, social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and that there is some pushback between the two. And how we can harmonize, I think that is the major challenge, as your report has also mentioned about it. And I hear during the many sessions in this forum that we should do more for environment, we should do more for social inclusion, but I don't hear much about how we can do that. And for that, there are some comments in the opening plenary that we had a certain fixed view about the role of the government, that the minimalism about the non-intervention from government on free economic policies and such and so. This is traditional, conventional position, and now the issue is, can you really cope with new challenges like urbanization, the pace of transformation of urbanization, technology? They are outpacing the policy capacity of most of the government. Maybe except a few very developed countries maybe find it comfortable, but rest of the world is finding very difficult to cope. So we are having some kind of gap between the capacity of government policy making and the pace of the real change on the ground, and also how to cope with the sustainability challenges. For that, I think my observation, because I am the one who pioneered the paradigm for green growth in the UN. I was the first one who started to use the word green growth from UNESCO in Bangkok. And since then, what I was focusing on is, we have to transform our traditional perception about the trade-off between economy, people, and the planet, the environment. Because in the traditional economics textbook, if air is free, water is free, and you don't have to pay for the pollution, nobody is paying for our CO2 emission. So this is the current economic system, where the trade-off is so strong. And then we are suffering from this. So then how can we address this issue, the limitations of conventional economic theory? Then I think that my idea, the idea I offered is that we should turn this into, from trade-off to win-win synergy between economy and the people and the planet. So in other words, if we invest in people and planet, it should be supporting economic dynamism in the long run. So we should change our policy foundation or perception or assumption that the environment and the people is a burden on short-term GDP economic growth, and we should change it to that perception that it is an investment for long-term higher economic growth, which is inclusive and which is green. So this kind of transformation of our policy making, I think is kind of something that I would like to highlight on the need. And for that, I published a report on green growth from UNESCO. What I emphasized in that transformation is that we need to change our invisible structure of a system, invisible which means fiscal policy, which means that like carbon tax, because now not many people are paying for carbon. And so we cannot live under the fiscal system where nobody is paying for carbon, and we are just aiming for, aspiring to move towards a low carbon society. I think it is very hollow, and I don't think we can move there. So how can we integrate these carbon issues in our fiscal policy and our banking policy or budget and these kind of things, and even trade? It is a very, very difficult challenge. So the new international architecture we are talking about here was Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. These are the kind of new sustainability architecture. But this sustainability architecture, as we all know, is not going as strong as we want it to go. We know the reason. The reason is very simple. We are still stuck with a very short-term oriented, extreme short-termism, only focusing on monthly, yearly GDP growth only paradigm. So unless we don't change this paradigm shift towards long-term quality of growth, not quantity of growth, I think it will be quite difficult. So I called it as a invisible structural change. But the other one is a visible structural change, which can be like a design of a city. It's a very physical issue, the design of a building. These are the very physical, very different issue. So I think we have to change this invisible and visible structures for our transformation towards a new economic system where the sustainability can be the basis for economic dynamism for the long run.
Extremely interesting comments. Thank you very much, because actually, indeed, we, during this session, like in Astana Economic Forum, we did this first sustainability forum for Kazakhstan, which I really liked in the sense that we had mostly international speakers, not much of local, but for us, as the listeners and as the audience, it was more important to understand that actually, yes, there are similarities to what we think inside the Institute of Economic Research. So anyone would like to comment? Maybe Arturo, Mr. Brice, in terms of, yeah.
I want to start by thanking the organizers for giving me this opportunity to visit Kazakhstan. I must say that I got rid of a major frustration that I had, because despite having studied Kazakhstan for years, as you know, with our partnership, I had never visited the country. So I hope it's not the last time. And it has been a really, really great experience these last 3 days here. I have learned a lot of things. And obviously, you know, the potential of the country, when it comes to geographical position, the size of the country, the fact that it's close to a very important economic power, I think has been already highlighted. Well, I want to emphasize a point that has not been made, or at least that I haven't heard enough, that is extremely important for us, and probably suggest this as a potential topic for the future. I think rather than looking at the East, China for a moment, or even the trade war between the US and China, I would like to look at the West, because if you think at the experience of Kazakhstan compared with other countries in Eastern Europe and Western Asia that have followed the same historical path, I think you have had the advantage of being a country built from scratch. And this gives you an opportunity to build new institutions. And I think that this has been one of the assets of this country. The difference between Kazakhstan, probably together with Azerbaijan, and then the rest of the other countries, I'm not talking about Estonia, Hungary, Slovenia, is that you are rich in natural resources. And obviously, unlike those countries, you have followed the commodity path. But what I've heard is that the economic diversification of the country will go by moving away from oil. And I think the danger that you have is that you are going to fall in the same trap as these countries have fallen into. If you look at what has happened in Slovenia, in Estonia, in Hungary, in Ukraine, in Belarus, is that those countries having nothing, they opted into technology and education. okay? Which clearly, as I have heard, are also priorities of the government here. Talent, development, technology, innovation. Now the danger is that as this economy grows and develops, you start to lose the talent that you have developed as well. Yesterday I had the opportunity to speak to the students, and it has been truly amazing to see the power of talent in this country. But again, if you pay attention to what Estonia has done, or Slovenia, or any of these countries, is that they innovated a lot, they developed massive talent, but at some point, because of the lack of opportunities for local talent and because of the lack of development of the financial sector, all those innovations move somewhere else, either to China or to the United States. I'm talking about Skype, I'm talking about WhatsApp, I'm talking about all of these massive innovations today that have been primarily developed in Eastern Europe and in Western Asia. So I would like to suggest as a potential topic for discussion the issue of talent attraction, but also the ability to retain the talent that you are going to develop. As you know, in our rankings, one of our indicators is the ability of the country to retain talent, and actually Kazakhstan ranks as one of the bottom countries when it comes to the willingness of companies to attract and retain talent. And I see that in the middle term or in the long term, that is going to be an issue. Because if this is a country that doesn't offer opportunities for local talent, then you will have invested in the next generation for no reason. And what needs to be done, and you know the recipes here are obvious. I think retaining talent requires the improvement in the quality of life of people, providing better opportunities for development, and what is even more important, making sure that small and medium enterprises have access to financial resources so they can grow in the country and do not feel the need to just move away with the talent that they have generated. This issue of intangible infrastructure of the country, and in particular talent, is, I think, very relevant and should be considered.
Thank you. Indeed, retention, making sure that the talents remain in your country is a big challenge for everybody. I think my thinking was at some point is indeed if you provide some good technologically smooth and comfortable environment, which would help, like for example, for the talented to remain and to operate and to develop, then why leave, kind of. So indeed, I agree. We need to prepare some good ways for them to operate and to be creative, and that's a very important point. But that reflects on the topic that you mentioned, and that Mr. Reinert, I think, someone else was talking about, is the long term. We need to think long term and try to ensure that your short-term actions they affect you in the long run. Maybe I will address Mr. Andrei Markolin. There's a very interesting dimension which was once mentioned to some of our colleagues, is the need with the symmetrical trade between countries of a similar scale and similar economies. Then there are some comparative advantages, but in general also Russia is one of the big parties to this global controversy. So maybe you can comment on.
Thank you very much for invitation for final section. Maybe I use Russian, it's more comfortable for me, and I know that the quality of translation is so good, and we can follow to my speech in Russian. Maybe as a joke I can say that one reason is that I was born in very center of Moscow, close by to Kremlin. Я бы хотел сказать вот о чем. Мы вот сейчас все обсуждаем, что можно, что нужно сделать Казахстану. Но в отличие, наверное, от многих здесь присутствующих, я был еще в Целинограде. И если мы посмотрим на эту проблему с точки зрения управления изменениями, то одна из тем следующего Астанинского форума могла бы быть все-таки это опыт Казахстана, потому что те изменения, которые произошли вот за это время, они поистине фантастические. Вот просто сознанием дела могу это сказать. И, наверное, может быть неожиданный поворот с точки зрения обсуждения того, что же делать. В далеком уже 1992 году я присутствовал на защите докторской диссертации первого президента Казахстана, уважаемого Нурсултана Абишевича Назарбаева, в Российской академии государственной службы при президенте Российской Федерации. Многое из того, что в той диссертации было, уже сделано. Но если взглянуть на нее вот с позиции сегодняшнего дня, то те идеи о ресурсосбережении, которые в этой диссертации были практически основными, они сейчас, мы их слышим вот в выступлениях наших уважаемых коллег за этим столом. И, наверное, новый взгляд, новое прочтение диссертации первого президента Казахстана могло бы много дать и с точки зрения повестки этого форума. Несколько слов скажу о вызовах и рисках. Вот если мы опросим людей на улицах и спросим их, а что же мешает развитию? Ну, многие скажут, неэффективное государственное управление, коррупция, зависимость от ресурсов и так далее. Но вот не являются ли эти ответы частными? Может быть, используя индуктивный метод мышления, мы попробуем перейти вот на какой-то другой, более общий уровень. Я бы вот рискнул, может быть, в порядке дискуссии сформулировать 2-3 момента, которые мне кажутся принципиально важными. Ну, первый. Это все-таки краткосрочное сознание значительной части элит. Но люди принимают решения на государственной службе, исходя из ими понимаемых сроков их контракта, для того, чтобы максимизировать личные выгоды. В бизнесе люди управляют компаниями таким образом, чтобы максимизировать свои бонусы, привязанные к акционерной стоимости компании и так далее. Это краткосрочное мышление, оно сейчас уже в известной степени нивелируется самыми разными механизмами управления, в том числе в бизнесе, когда, например, людям разрешают продавать их пакеты акций через 5 лет после того, как они ушли. Ну, много таких есть механизмов, но тем не менее существует вот это краткосрочное мышление, которое развиваться мешает. Еще одна история, которую мы видим все сейчас, это вопрос доверия. На самом деле это не гуманитарная, а очень экономическая категория. Это и процентные ставки на рынке, это и те торговые войны, вот, которые сейчас все обсуждают. Но вот великий Лао Цзы когда-то говорил, в неизбежной войне победит избежавший. Я считаю, это великая мысль на самом деле. И вот здесь роль Казахстана, пожалуйста, ведь это же площадка для переговоров по Сирии и с теми результатами, которые, наверное, трудно отрицать, и вклад вот в это все есть. На самом деле, если меры укрепления доверия любыми способами, при помощи Астанинского форума здесь, при помощи Гайдаровского форума в России, при помощи тех известных форумов того же Давосского, которые есть, ну вот ничто не будет лишним. Очень важно, чтобы эти меры доверия к чему-то разумному приводили. Но если мы посмотрим на риски, то, наверное, мы должны вспомнить, что производные финансовые инструменты по своему объему более чем в 10 раз превосходят мировой валовой внутренний продукт. Не значит ли это, что черные лебеди Насима Талиба уже на взлете, и когда и куда они прилетят, мы с вами не знаем? Мне вот очень близко то, что здесь говорилось по поводу зеленого роста. Очень признателен вам за ваше выступление. Может быть, нам стоит уже отказаться от терминов «экономический рост» в пользу терминов «экономическое развитие». Ведь методология роста валового внутреннего продукта уязвима для критики. Вот в России была глобальная авария с Постоянно-Шушенской ГЭС, да? Потом из бюджета было истрачено много денег для того, чтобы ее восстановить. По методологии расчета валового внутреннего продукта это рост. Но с точки зрения реального развития, ведь его же не было, мы только восстановили то, что было. Поэтому, наверное, не всякий рост нам даже нужен. Вот рост раковых клеток – это же ведь тоже рост, но вряд ли это тот рост, который мы бы хотели. Поэтому, наверное, вот методология развития, связанная и с 17 целями устойчивого развития, и с вот вашими работами по зеленому росту, но это очень серьезные вещи, которые, наверное, могли бы быть в повестке Астанинского форума следующего года. Ну и последнее, о чем я хочу сказать с точки зрения рисков, это все-таки неравенство доходов. Вот исследования господина Пикетти показывают, насколько это важно. Ну, здесь Казахстан выглядит лучше России несколько, но все равно эта дифференциация достаточно велика. Вот если мы посмотрим на пирамиду Маслоу, то мы увидим, что, как правило, люди, которые находятся на ее вершине, разрабатывают всякие стратегические документы в интересах тех, кто находится внизу этой пирамиды. Но если дифференциация доходов огромна, те, для кого это разрабатывается, не поверят тем, кто это разрабатывает. И это очень серьезный вопрос, который требует и в том числе и глобальных инструментов регулирования. Ну, на этом, пожалуй, закончу. Спасибо.
Андрей Марович, спасибо, очень яркие комментарии, серьезные. Я, наверное, попробую сейчас обратиться к своим коллегам, кто участвовал в этой дискуссии в качестве рапортеров. У нас была специальная роль у института, мы пытались отследить и записать основные идеи, которые были озвучены во время сессий. К сожалению, посетить 50 и более сессий достаточно сложновато, да, за очень короткий период времени, поэтому мы разбились, поработали командно. Я думаю, может, кто-то из коллег сможет прокомментировать. Сара Нурбековна, может быть, вы?
Да, спасибо. Прежде всего, мне хотелось бы сказать, что Астанинский экономический форум 2019 года удался. Сессии были очень интересные, и мне кажется, они действительно были полезны и нашему правительству, потому что активно участвовали члены правительства в сессиях, не только на пленарном, но и на рабочих панельных сессиях. Что касается тех выводов и задач, тех выводов и тех вопросов, которые поставил Астанинский экономический форум, мне хотелось бы сказать следующее. Безусловно, Казахстан сейчас страна относительно богатая, особенно в Центрально-Азиатском регионе, на евразийском пространстве. Безусловно, наше богатство обусловлено нефтью и другими природными ресурсами. Мы это прекрасно понимаем, это прекрасно понимает наше правительство. И предпринимаются достаточно большие усилия для того, чтобы преломить этот тренд. Разработано достаточно большое количество государственных программ, национальных стратегий. Когда мы говорим, как преломить эту линию, как преломить свою зависимость от нефти, мы видим, что каждая страна должна решать свои проблемы, наверное, безусловно, обращаясь к опыту других стран, как говорили сегодня коллеги. Но учитывать то, что мы совсем другая страна, у нас проблемы нашей страны. Казахстан – самая большая страна в мире, которая не имеет выхода к морю. Это проблема, да. Если сравнивать с Южной Кореей, специфика совсем другая. У нас очень низкая плотность населения, у нас очень большая территория. И, конечно, здесь нужно очень учитывать именно специфику нашей страны. И здесь надо отдать должное, наверное, нашему первому президенту. Ведь Казахстан очень молодая страна с молодой экономикой. Начало 90-х мы только получили независимость. Первое десятилетие практически прошло в процессе трансформации и выстраивания страны как рыночной экономики, с либеральной более-менее экономикой, с выстраиванием институтов, которые возникали буквально на пустом месте, ведь это очень сложно. И только практически с 2000-х годов мы стали уже развиваться как самостоятельная экономика. И здесь правильно поставленные цели и приоритеты были очень важны. Для меня было очень большим открытием, когда господин Артур Брис сказал, что его институт, вырабатывая рейтинги стран, на одно из первых мест поставил, имеет ли страна долгосрочную стратегию развития. Вот наш президент, он всегда ставил задачу видеть долгосрочное видение нашей страны. Кто-то верит в это, кто-то не верит в это. Но тем не менее мы двигаемся по этому пути, потому что мы видим стратегическую цель. К 2050 году мы хотим войти в 30-ку развитых стран. Кто-то может сказать скептически, что это невозможно. Мы можем, может быть, и не достичь в полной мере этой цели, но мы к ней стремимся, и мы координируем свои задачи, которые в краткосрочном плане. Мы их пытаемся выполнять в этом канале, в русле этой стратегии, потому что это очень важно. Мы видим свои недостатки, безусловно, они есть. Сегодня вот коллега из России говорил о неравенстве. Безусловно, и вопросы неравенства есть в Казахстане. У нас очень достаточно высокий показатель подушевого ВВП на душу населения. Мы превысили $27 тысяч по паритету покупательной способности. Если сравнивать по методологии Европейского банка реконструкции, то мы превышаем тот уровень стран со средним доходом по отношению к подушевому доходу США, который составляет там более $64 тысяч на человека. Страна относительно с достойным доходом, но как правильно распределить этот доход? Как выстроить свой бюджет? Достаточно ли размера бюджета в качестве для выполнения своей перераспределительной функции? Достаточно много проблем и по структуре занятости, потому что мы, естественно, имеем какие-то признаки голландской болезни, потому что это неизбежно. Нефть влияет. Нефть – это большое благо, но нефть несет и свои какие-то недостатки. Поэтому я думаю, что сегодняшний вопрос о зеленом росте, он для нас очень важен. Я хотела бы обратить внимание, что когда говорят о зеленой экономике, очень большое внимание уделяется выбросам углерода. В Казахстане очень большое теплоэлектростанции, которые работают на угле. И эти выбросы, они снижают эффективность зеленого роста. В этом отношении наш президент инициировал такую очень структурно большую задачу перейти от сжигания угля к использованию газа, то есть от твердого топлива к газу. Безусловно, не все, будем так говорить, не всем, может быть, нравится такой переход, потому что, естественно, у нас есть угольное лобби, у нас есть предприятия, которые добывают уголь, там работают люди, они заняты. Как дальше будет это? То есть вопросов много, и здесь нужно будет какой-то баланс найти. Но я думаю, что этот шаг, он очень большой. Этот газопровод пройдет с запада Казахстана буквально вот до севера Казахстана. Это очень большие расстояния. Я думаю, что зеленый рост, он получит свой импульс от этого проекта. Поэтому, завершая коротко свое выступление, мне хотелось бы еще раз поблагодарить вас, потому что каждое предложение, высказанное вами, каждая рекомендация, Институт экономических исследований в качестве, представляя руководство нашего института, господина Каражана, мы очень тщательно проработаем все и подготовим рекомендации для нашего правительства. Я думаю, что ни одно ваше предложение не останется в стороне. Спасибо.
Сарумбека, спасибо. Mr. Sachs, I know that you want to say something, right? To share your views. I think a lot relates to what you do, what you've been discussing right now. So, if you could, yeah.
Thank you very much. First, let me thank the government for having us here, and it's really a pleasure and a great honor for us. Let me make a few general remarks first. The first one is on the strategic goal. I must say I'm not convinced that defining the goal as being in the top 30 countries is the right way to define the goal. What is the goal? The goal is to live well, a happy society, living in peace, having prosperity, having a social capital. I'm not sure that a list of 30 countries is really the right target. What is that list based on? GDP per capita? Well, that certainly won't give you an answer to the quality of life. And there are 193 countries. Why do you want to leave 163 of them behind? Rather than defining the goal as the quality of life that you aspire to, being able to use the technologies, the skills, the culture, the clean environment, the well-being. I would like to see my country define the goals that way. We define the goal as GDP per capita and how many military bases we can have around the world. It's driving us crazy. It's not leading to well-being. So I think defining the goal that one wants is really important. And I would just make a comment in that way. What is the quality of life for the Kazakh people that you would like? How could that be measured? This will lead, I think, to good results. The second thing I wanted to say was a word about the trade war. This is not really a trade war. This is a temper tantrum of the United States. And it should be taken seriously, but with a lot of skepticism by the rest of the world. This is just bad behavior by a powerful country that doesn't like the competition from China. It's not really about trade. It's about the United States wanting to be the only superpower. And it can't be, in a decent world, the only superpower. In a decent world, there will be many powers. The United States only has 4.2% of the world population, but it wants to be the only superpower. Well, it leads to a lot of obnoxious behavior. Now we have an obnoxious president. We should understand what this is and say to the United States, calm down, stop this kind of disruption. We don't want to have a new Cold War. We don't want to have more divisions. We don't want to have more hot wars. Just stop all of this disruption, because what we're seeing is a psychological phenomenon, not a real policy phenomenon. And it's very important for countries to say that, because a lot of us in the United States are very unhappy about all of the agitation coming from a small group that is causing a tremendous amount of worry in the world for no reason. So this is a second matter. A country like Kazakhstan absolutely has to have friends everywhere, because you're surrounded by countries and by powerful countries. So you need to have good relations. You don't want division in the world or having to choose sides. And this, I think, is the world that we want in general, is not to have to choose sides, but rather to have cooperation and the rule of law internationally. The rule of law is very fragile. We've never had a true international rule of law. If you look at the history of this region, how many empires have come in this region? Dozens of empires. Everybody conquering this region from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south. All conquest. Well, now in the 21st century, we can look at the world and understand how stupid that behavior is, because we will kill all of us if we continue with this way of thinking. So we have to have a system that is peaceful, that has rules, and the UN is the best thing that we ever invented. We have to make it work. I really very much respect President Nazarbayev for constantly emphasizing this point of peace as being central. This is completely the right message. it brings me to the next obvious point, which is that the initiative like the Belt and Road Initiative is exactly right. It is an initiative of connectivity. And Europe should like it, Russia should like it, Central Asia should like it, Southeast Asia should like it, Korea, Japan, China. Of course, to make it work, it should be good investment projects, not bad investment projects. The worst thing about the Belt and Road is that the investment quality is not very good right now because it's taken on political criteria, not on the future that we want to build properly. And in fact, what China does is ask the other countries, what do you want? We want coal plants, you got them. Rather than asking, what are we trying to build for Eurasia? Because what should be built is clean, sustainable, future-oriented, not the past. And so the big question for Belt and Road is not whether it's a good or bad initiative, it's a good initiative to connect Eurasia. But the essence of it is the quality of the investments, and that needs to be higher, especially around sustainability. And this comes to this question about this country's development strategy. And I very much agree with the comments that were made. First of all, of course Kazakhstan will have a natural resource-based development strategy in significant part because this is a huge country with so many resources. The population density is 7 people per square kilometer here. In Korea, it's 510 people per square kilometer. So this is a vast country with many resources. But the question is which resources? And the true test for Kazakhstan is to shift from coal, oil, and gas to sustainable natural resources. You have a lot of wind power, you have a lot of solar power, you have hydroelectric potential. So the question is to use the renewable resources in a desirable way. The problem with the oil is not only that you're dependent on one commodity, you're dependent on a commodity that needs to end. We need to stop using coal, oil, and gas in this world by 2050 for a safe world. So you're in a commodity that needs to be phased out. This is the difficulty for Russia also, obviously. But fortunately, Russia and Kazakhstan have more renewable potential than could ever be imagined. Vast countries with all renewable energy that could power the whole world. And so the question is to use good science and technology to invest in those properly. And there may be ways to use some of the hydrocarbons with carbon storage. Maybe. I don't know whether it's feasible or not, but this is something that your scientists and your engineers should be looking at. Because if you could use the coal to produce hydrogen, for example, and sequester the carbon, that would be a good industry. Then put it in a pipeline and send it to Korea for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. This is possible, maybe. So the question is really a technological question. And here I would put a lot more emphasis on the technology transformation. Certainly this country could produce tens or hundreds of gigawatts of wind power profitably, and you could carry them to China on long-distance transmission grid without problem, and it would be an endless absorption of the market so that Kazakhstan would remain a major energy exporter but zero carbon energy. And maybe with fossil fuel, you could also export synthetics or synthetic methane or synthetic or hydrogen, but that requires carbon storage, and that is a question of whether it's feasible. So that's one part of the development that I would really emphasize. You need to get out of coal, oil, and gas, not because of being nice to the world, but because the world's going to stop buying those products. Maybe not now, but in 10 years or 15 years. A few more heat waves, a few more floods, a few more hurricanes, and the rest of the world's going to say, okay, we get it. We're going to get rid of Donald Trump sometime because we have a constitution. And then we will start doing real climate change control. And then you don't want to be in that industry anymore. And the same with Russia, because Gazprom sells a lot of gas right now, but it's not going to be able to in 25 years. And so all of the countries need to move to a different energy base. And this is a good business, a lot of money to be made, and science, advanced science and good technology, and perfect for the Belt and Road Initiative. Of course, it links to the other topic that we discussed all the time at this conference, which is the quality of education. And here, Kazakhstan is in very good shape. And Russia is in very good shape also, because it's outstanding education, very high technology, very high mathematics and engineering. But this should be put to use. So I think that this is the other area that is obviously needed. Good infrastructure, sustainable energy, high quality education, and the right strategic goals, which is the well-being of the people and the thriving of Kazakhstan, which absolutely is within reach. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Можно короткий комментарий? Буквально 2 слова.
Да.
Да, я очень коротко хотела бы прокомментировать вот вхождение в 30-ку. Там не только ВВП на душу населения, но такие показатели, как увеличить продолжительность жизни, увеличить качество образования. То есть это очень комплексная задача.
I think we need not only fossil speakers, but we need also renewable speakers, right? We're losing some speakers as well. So I wanted to make it very simple now, if I may. I had a second question on agenda, but we have a very interesting tradition to wrap up big meetings in our culture, is that give a floor to almost everyone, right? What I suggest is that why don't I ask briefly to and give a floor to everybody around the table, and maybe ask you to suggest what do you think should be the subjects for Astana Economic Forum 2020. Simple, straightforward subjects. I'll write them down, prioritize in the future, and we see how it goes in Astana Economic Forum. Maybe starting from you, and we'll go around to Marcus.
A green Belt and Road Initiative that connects Europe, Russia, Central Asia, East Asia, and South Asia.
Green.
Green.
Excellent. Thank you. Sara Nurbekovna.
Я поддерживаю предложение о выращивании, сохранении и привлечении талантов.
Таланты. Кнопку.
Тоже хотела сказать качество человеческого капитала.
Айбол.
Можно мне более такой обширный комментарий? В первую очередь я бы присоединяюсь к словам Андрея Марковича Марголина о том, что действительно докторская диссертация нашего первого президента, лидера нации Нурсултана Абишевича Назарбаева, заложила основы независимого Казахстана. счастью, я имел такое счастье работать с этим документом, увидеть воочию его оригинал и в РНХИКС, и в РГБ, и также одна из моих исследовательских работ была именно посвящена к этой диссертации. Поэтому я полностью солидарен в этом вопросе с Андреем Марковичем Марголиным. И следующий вопрос, конечно, в ходе всех обсуждений мы часто дискутировали, и все пришли к единому мнению, что Казахстану, как и другим странам мира, нужно находить и приобрести новые точки роста, для того, чтобы достичь траектории устойчивости, чтобы, как вы сами знаете, для того, чтобы войти в топ-30, не только это по текущим макроэкономическим показателям нужно иметь устойчивый рост. Для достижения устойчивого роста именно нужно находить новые точки роста. Это как и человеческий капитал, как и отмечали наши коллеги, так и новые элементы индустрии 4.0. В то же время хотели бы отметить, что в рамках внедрения новых технологий, в том числе индустрии 4.0, существует множество рисков наряду с возможностями. Это то же самое уязвимость перед кибератаками, а в то же время также незащищенность некоторых моментов. И с учетом всех этих рекомендаций, конечно же, мы в первую очередь поддерживаем инициативы доктора Чунга по глобальному энергетическому росту. Как вы сами знаете, уже сейчас незначительные изменения атмосферной температуры уже влечет за собой необратимые процессы. И как Казахстану, как аграрной стране, эти изменения нужно избежать и также стремиться, и, конечно, мы это делаем, чтобы попасть в мировые лидеры по сохранению экологической стабильности не только в стране, так и в регионе. Также я бы хотел сказать, что действительно Астанинский экономический форум стал действенной площадкой обсуждения и выработки рекомендаций. Мы несколько уже дней работаем над рекомендациями, и уже мы смотрим, что, конечно, действительно очень множество рекомендаций мы получили, и будем данные рекомендации представлять всем нашим уполномоченным органам. Также, воспользуясь моментом, я бы хотел еще раз выразить благодарность всем нашим присутствующим спикерам, господину доктору Чунгу, господину доктору Узану, господину доктору Сакс, господину Обсфельду за активное участие и за ценные рекомендации для экономики Казахстана, которые мы использовали и цитировали с вашего любезного согласия в исследовании «Казахстан и глобальный мир. Вызовы и возможности». Спасибо.
Қайырлы күн кеш, құрметті әріптестер. Осы екі күнде керемет әртүрлі тақырыпқа байланысты үлкен зерттеуге, кейінгі келешекке Қазақстанның жалпы әлеуметтік экономикалық жағдай қалай дамиды деген барлық жағдайлары қарастырылған. Енді осыған біз қарайтын болсақ, кез келген зерттеушінің берген пікірі бізге құнды. Әрқайсының берген пікірі қысқа немесе ұзақ мерзімді сипатталады. Қазақстан үшін ең бастысы бізге қажетті нәрсе елдің әлеуметтік жағдайын жақсарту, әр қазақстандықтың бақытты өмір сүруі, қауіпсіз өмір сүруі, өмір сапасының деңгейін арттыру. Мінекей елбасының қойған межесі сонау 50-ші жылға дейінгі межесі осымен байланысады. Әр жыл сайын бұл мәселенің өзі күн тәртібінде өзекті болып келе жатыр. Осында отырған сіздердің барлық пікірлеріңіз бізге құнды. Мысалы, Джеффри Сакстың құнды пікірі, Ресейден келген қонағымыздың да құнды пікірлері бар, Кореядан келіп жатқан. Енді 90 ауыз сөздің тобықтайтын түйіні айтатын болсақ, мысалы біз өңірлік экономиканы, өңірлік дамуды Эрик Райнертпен бірге қарастырған едік. Сол кездегі біздің мәселеміз ауылдық деңгеймен, ауылдық дамумен урбандалу, урбанизациялау мәселесінің белгі бір деңгейде тепе-теңдігін ұстау, кез келген дамыған мемлекет болсын, орта дамыған мемлекет болсын, олардың белгі бір деңгейдегі проблемасы осы жерде туындайды. Урбандалып барып, ауылдық мекенді назардан тыс қалдыруымыз мүмкін. Егер ол мәселені акцентке қоятын болсақ, онда урбандалуға байланысты, урбанизацияға байланысты мәселелер тағы да үлкен қиыншылықтарды тудырады. Ол осы екі мәселені кез келген бағыттағы бірдей рецепті дүние жүзінде жоқ секілді. Себебі Польшаның өзінің моделі бар, Германиядағы өзінің моделі бар. Бірақ бір баланс ұстайтын болса, Қазақстан үшін келесі жылға равные возможности дейміз ғой, бәріне теңдей жағдай жасау әр қалаға. Сондай Германиядағындай әр қала үлкен жағдаймен, үлкен мүмкіндікпен белгілі бір Германияның модель сияқты локомотивке айналу керек, кез келгеніміздің 18 қаламыз.
Қысқаша айтып берсеңіз болды.
Әлеуметтік жағдайды жақсарту үшін ауылдық елді мекендерді теңдей дамыту. Осы келесі жылғы күн тәртібінде болса, онда өңірлік деңгейдің сапасын арттыруға әсерін тигізеді.
Коллеги, я хотел бы просто напомнить очень коротко и по возможности, чтобы мы уже завершили. Зал нужен нашим коллегам.
Спасибо. Еще раз хотела бы поблагодарить уважаемых спикеров за ценные комментарии, предложения. Хотела бы сказать, что от себя, что критерии развитости стран, они тоже не статичны и меняться тоже будут. Поэтому, если мы хотим войти в 30-ку, они к 50-му году тоже будут видоизменены с условием актуализированы. Так же, как понятие конкурентоспособности, критерии поменялись, цифровизация сейчас выходит, когнитивные способности, интеллектуальные, искусственный интеллект и так далее. Это будут дополнительные факторы конкурентоспособности. Это мы тоже вот с господином Артуром Брис обсуждали, и, возможно, методология AMD, какие-то изменения будут. Но в целом я хотела бы по тематике сказать, Казахстан сейчас, возможно, работа над целями устойчивого развития и присоединение к глобальной повестке оказались очень своевременными, потому что, несмотря на то, что у нас система госпланирования выстроена, и многие целевые индикаторы сидят в наших документах стратегического планирования, однако акцент на устойчивое развитие, и то, что говорил уважаемый господин Вон Чунг, я тоже поддерживаю эту тематику. И, возможно, вот продвижение принципов устойчивого развития – это всеобъемлющее понятие, которое включит как раз-таки и зеленый рост, и поддержку талантов, и вот доступ равных возможностей всех регионов. Я вот больше склонна к этой тематике, продвижению этой тематики. Спасибо.
Я, в свою очередь, хотела предложить, что вот на следующем Астанинском экономическом форуме обязательно была сессия, или там на повестке дня был вопрос по опыту Казахстана, так как всем известно, что правительством Казахстана за последние несколько лет проведена большая системная работа по улучшению условий ведения бизнеса, результатом которого является то, что Казахстан вошел в топ-30 стран по условиям ведения бизнеса, и мы можем уже как бы совершенно спокойно делиться опытом с другими странами в этом плане.
Thank you. Just a short remark. As far as that the topics in the next Astana Economic Forum, I'd like to suggest the 3 topics. Number 1 is the productivity. Productivity is not everything in the short run, but we can say that productivity growth is something like everything in the long run. So productivity growth might be discussed. Second one is we all discuss about that. So considering the current trend in the global economy, it suggests some kind of inclusive growth in many respects. I mean, not only income distribution, but also some kind of regional and then spatial disparity issues. And then third one is that I think some kind of a trust in policy. I mean, something like as Professor Sachs mentioned in detail. So I'm wondering, I mean, the current way of the policies can continue. I mean, in the future. So how we, moderate or what kind of international policy coordination role in that respect. So I suggest three topics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ну, у нас тоже говорят, Бог любит троицу, поэтому я три тоже темы предложу. Значит, ну, первое, вот тут вроде как консенсус вырисовывается, я бы так и сформулировал, творческое наследие первого президента Казахстана, взгляд в будущее. Вот, первое, да. Второе, развитие городских агломераций, Целиноград, Астана, Нур-Султан. Вот что-то такое, да. И третье, ну не могу, конечно, тоже не сказать про устойчивое развитие, про зеленый рост, только лучше бы обсудить это не в терминах, что этим надо заниматься, а обсудить конкретную методологию, как это измерять. Вот про это бы сделать какую-то секцию.
Спасибо, очень интересно. Спасибо.
I will propose only one thing. Economic system transformation for SDG. Yeah, that is exactly what, not just that we should, but what has to be changed. So I think that we need to focus on what has to be changed among the economic system, which include trade, fiscal policy, or all those economic policy. Because without changing this current conventional economic setting and mindset, I think it will be very difficult that we can achieve the sustainability we are dreaming for. So economic system transformation for SDG, which include green growth and the Green Belt and Road Initiative. They're all part of this transformation of our economic system.
Well, I will share what was said before. I started my comments at the beginning about that we are maybe in a new age of connectivity. Jeffrey mentioned Green Belt and Road Initiative. The EU has a connectivity strategy. I think where you are positioned geographically matters a lot in terms of connectivity. You are a landlocked country, so you have to position the forum, because we are in Kazakhstan. It's not the World Economic Forum. It's not, so you have to anchor it for topics that are very relevant to your country, but to all your neighbors. And I believe that driving that, I think China needs a partner. China doesn't want to own the Belt and Road Initiative. Okay, this is really my takeaway from the Belt and Road Summit 2 weeks ago. So you should take the leadership to show that BRI is not a Chinese-driven project, it's also owned by other countries. And I really share what Jeffrey said about the Green Belt Road Initiative, because you can talk about connectivity, you can bring all the stakeholders, you have created the Astana International Financial Center, so you have to talk about financial connectivity. You can really build a strong agenda for next year. And as you said before, with the WTO coming year, you can really leverage also and showcase also that Kazakhstan, you need to also bring your local stakeholders, because we need to hear not only from your government, but from your experts. I think it was very nice to have your local expert also to express their view, and I think that would be very relevant for next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With this, I just wanted to give big applause and thanks to everybody who participated in this session. Thank you. As I mentioned in my previous session, what we are doing, we are putting together a small, it will not be a network of friends of Astana Economic Forum. So welcome to the club. Membership is free. But let's keep in touch and let's meet at a number of good events in the future. Thank you very much.